All right, everybody. I'll tell you a little bit about oxalic acid. You know, for me, I used Apivar in summer, August, and I don't believe it did anything for my hives. I came out of that and I did my mite checks afterwards, and you know, my hair stood up, what little of it's left. But I figured I have to do something else. Now I've been playing with the oxalic acid, and I just decided that that's going to be another form of mite control for me. That's something I'm going to use. So the first thing about oxalic acid, and for anybody that's thinking of using it, it's a very caustic chemical. It's dangerous. The vapor can drift in the area you use. It can burn your eyes. It can burn your lungs. And just touching it can infect you too. You should wear nitrile gloves. When you use oxalic acid, you really should wear coverall goggles and a respirator rated for the oxalic acid vapors. The most effective treatment times, and Kevin talked a little bit about this, is basically November when it starts to get cold, and then coming into late winter. I just did them, I guess, last week and the week before. And one thing about that, when you do them, because during the coldest times of the winter, the bees are on the cluster. If you do it then, you're really not going to get to all the bees in the hive. You want to wait till it's above 32 degrees. And it's even better if it's a little bit warmer when the bees are flying. You know the cluster is broken apart. So when you treat, you're going to cover all the bees. And what the oxalic acid basically does is when it vaporizes inside the hive, it crystallizes. And the crystals cover the entire inside of the hive. Now that's everything, the frames and the bees. And those crystals, they kill the mites. So it seems to be very effective. The downside of using it in the colder months is you can't test afterwards. You can't do a mite check to see that, you know, how effective it was. But it seems to be effective. I haven't lost any hives this year, so. Now when I use it, I seal my entrances, and I have an entrance restrictor that I made for my vaporizer that I stick in the bottom of the hive. And it's got an opening just big enough for my vaporizer. So I can take the vaporizer and just fit it right in. And with this little piece of metal right here, it pretty much seals the opening. So with the top taped off and this in here and sealed, it pretty much keeps all the vapors inside when I do vaporize. The amount of oxalic acid you use, it's basically 1 gram or 1/4 teaspoon per deep. So for my hives, I'm using 1/2 teaspoon or 2 grams. And that's the battery pack I use up on top. So I fill the opening with the oxalic acid. I stick it in. I use a timer on my phone, and I set it for 2 minutes. I turn my battery pack on. I walk away, because you can see the vapors come out once it vaporizes. And I leave it on for 2 minutes. I shut the battery pack off, and I'll wait another couple of minutes before I take the vaporizer out. When I take the vaporizer out, I'll seal the entrance, and I'll leave it sealed for about 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, you know, approximate. And I'll go on to the next hive. I hope I explained that well enough.
What's the black wrap around the...
I put insulation on my hives. That's an insulation wrapper. I also have a quilt box that I put on top with a spacer. Yeah.
Do you wear a respirator? I mean, I've talked to people who do this and some say, oh, just be careful if you're upwind.
All right. I'm not going to lie. My presentation said use a respirator, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say use a respirator. I put the vaporizer in, and I walk about 30 yards away.
Okay.
And I stay away until I see the vapor lift, and that's why a lot of times I'll wait 10 minutes. And I found that if I wait 10 minutes and I take it out, I'm not seeing any mist.
Okay.
You know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've got to be truthful.
Sure.
Jim?
Did you buy or make your vaporizer?
I tried making one. A lot of times people use a, what the heck's it called now? I'm having a...
It's a glow plug.
Thank you. A glow plug and, you know, a 12-volt source. And I tried making a couple, and my biggest problem was I couldn't get the bowl right without having some type of, something to cut a piece of aluminum or something to get a nice bowl. I ended up buying one.
So the one that you have there is a purchased one?
Right, I bought that from Bushy Mountain.
And they cost roughly?
This one was about $100. Yeah.
So what brand is that?
Well, this one, I'm not sure of the brand's name. I bought it through Bushy Mountain. They sell two. They sell one for about $100, and there's a higher price one that's about, I don't know, $120.
Is that the power supply that you're using for that?
The power supply is a battery charge pack, and I've got a 500 watt. You don't need one that big, but I can use that battery pack for 15 hives and go right through and not have to recharge it.
Is there a plug-in option?
I believe there are 110 volt vaporizers. Yeah. The only thing is getting an extension cord. If you're close to a garage, it's easy. But
If you get a 12-volt one, you can drive your lawn tractor over up to the same battery.
yeah, but the option was doing it in the winter. I'm probably gonna have to charge the battery on the tractor to get it to start. So it's easier to just carry the battery pack
Or
around.
an extra battery. You pull it out of your car, carry it back there.
The battery pack's easier, believe me.
I have one of these too, and I have a portable battery that you could plug in, and it has the thing to jump your car. You could buy those kits, and that's what I use.
Right.
Walk around. It's pretty
Right.
cool
If you-
when you have.
Yeah, if you look at this, you can see the battery pack's got a handle on and on-off switch, and it's got power lights too for when you charge it, because you charge it with 110 volt extension cord.
What are the treatments that you performed last year in addition to this?
Apivar.
Okay.
Yeah, so this year,
Honey flow?
after the honey flow, after I took my honey supers off, I used Apivar. And I was really disappointed with my checks afterwards. So this year, it's probably going to be Mite quick strips. Or Formic Pro is, I'm supposed to say. Yeah,
Some
but
discussion before about the cost. Can you talk about the cost of this per hive once you have the equipment?
well, oxalic acid is, it's really wood bleach. And if you go to a hardware store, they sell wood bleach. It's a tub, and I guess is it a quarter pound? I'm not sure, but it's $2, $2.50. So it's very inexpensive over the long run. I mean, the initial expense is the vaporizer and the battery pack. Yeah.
Is there different strengths of oxalic acid?
No.
There's not some that are 99% and some that aren't?
No, even if you look in the from the suppliers,
Right. It's all the same.
yeah, basically the percentage in there is the same as you'll see on the wood bleach package.
Are the depths of where you put it, are they all the same, where they'll fit easily into the hive?
I think they're basically the same size, but I made my restrictor.
Right.
And you could just make it-
No problems at all.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much height-wise probably around the same. Yeah.
You don't have to dissolve the oxalic acid in water. You don't have to.
No, you're going to put the crystals right in the bowl, and when it heats up, it's going to vaporize.
So that's
You don't want to see, but what it does is basically you'll see it. It'll liquefy before it vaporizes.
So that's an advantage over the dribble method because
You have to go into the hives to dribble. This you can use, during the colder months. It's another option because, if you don't treat for mites, your bees are going south.
And you did this in November, right?
Yeah. And I just did it a couple of weeks ago. And I'll probably do it later in the month again. Yeah, Joe.
Pardon me, I wasn't here for the beginning of your talk, but I'd just like to say that oxalic acid has been used in Europe for years and years and years, and it just became approved in New Jersey like a year or so ago. Kevin could correct me. Oxalic acid, for the non-chemist, is present in rhubarb and kale. Oxalic acid is a 6-carbon carboxylic acid, like vinegar is a 2-carbon. So it's a simple molecule by comparison to dimethylfluoro, whatever. And I've had success with it using it now for 4 years. You do have to be careful with it, but there's a lot of good to be said for it.
Oh, yeah. Like Joe says, it's another option. We need more options. Yeah.
So if you use it, do you have to worry about it affecting your honey, or do you want to put your honey off, or
I'm sorry, what?
is it compatible with your honey?
Oxalic acid?
Yeah.
I believe you should have your supers off.
Well, you're mostly using it in the cold months when that's
Right.
an issue.
It's another option.
When honey might be
Right.
the bees to feed off of, but you're not doing it in the warm. See, remember, the oxalic acid is not going into brood.
That's the important point.
That's the
Right.
important point.
Yeah, that's the important. So you have to be kind of like broodless.
Right. That's the time of year you want to use it.
Or in the fall.
But it's not toxic if it does wind up in the honey, right? It's not going to be something that's going to affect your honey, is it? That's my
Joe can answer that better than me. I mean, it's naturally occurring, but
In that concentration, it would not, you probably would not be tested. But bear in mind, if you have a sensitivity to kidney stones, you don't want to take a lot of oxalic acid because that's present in kale and rhubarb. And kidney stones are half the time one thing, but the other half.
folks, you do not want kidney stones. I'd rather hit my foot with a hammer than have a kidney stone.
But at that low concentration, I think you'd be all right. I have one question from that point.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so for the oxalic acid, about the supers, would you just have to take off the super while you're doing that oxalic acid and then put it back on?
The honey super?
Yes.
Well, I haven't really used it during the flow. For me, I'm looking at it as another option to use when we're close to broodless, so in the colder times of the year. Yeah.
So if you're a first-year beekeeper, would this be a good first treatment for a package that you're getting in March? To get you're not going to sell anyway because there's no brood there, but
Right.
get a package, treat it right away.
I think what Kevin said before is you want to ask if that package has been treated. Yeah, and I believe most of them are.
But if it hadn't, this would be maybe a good first step.
And make sure you know the difference between a package and a nuke. Make sure you are, in fact, getting a package. A nuke will already be well developed and full of brood.
Right, you'll have brood in there. Yeah, it could be an option after you apply the package, but ask if it's been treated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more presentation. Bob's going to talk about yellow jackets.
Thanks.
I just have one more comment about oxalic acid. So we were talking about how you want to use it when they're broodless, but if you want to use it when they have brood, you can, and just do it 3 or 4 weeks in a row, right? So that all the brood hatches, and you'll kill the mites as they hatch out.
So does the statement you cannot treat for mites with or with one method repeatedly also apply to oxalic acid?
Again, I would switch them all up anyway. You know, there's no proof yet that there's been any resistance to oxalic, and the chances are there probably won't be, but we don't know that for sure. So I would still switch them up.